This is CBS News color coverage of Man on the Moon. The epic journey of Apollo 11. This morning, the launch of astronauts Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins. The start of the trip to the moon. Sponsored by the International Paper Company, where good ideas grow on trees. And by Western Electric, manufacturing and supply unit of the Bell System. And by Kellogg's. Kellogg's puts more in your morning. Here from CBS News Apollo headquarters at Kennedy Space Center, correspondent Walter Cronkite.
Good morning. It's T-minus 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 53 seconds.
Well. We are back again. And we should be, hopefully, if I indeed have it correct, we should be cooking by gas. We should be live. And I think we should be on X and YouTube. So, all going well. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are in this absolutely insane world that we live in. Holy moly! Where do you even begin? At the beginning. Yeah, the beginning, right? Yeah, the beginning. Wherever that is, of course. Of course, maybe NASA, they could be the people to see if you wanted to know about the beginning of the world, the Earth as we call it. I thought they were in space. Yeah, well, they know a lot about the world because, you know, one of the Apollo astronauts said, he said, oh man, he said, we went to the moon and we discovered the Earth. Right. Huh. Okay, sure. Why not, right? Mission failed then, right? Mission failed? Surely. I mean, I thought you were going to the moon. Yeah, but we discovered the Earth. And of course, we got very early on in the Apollo program, we got told, oh, the Earth is very fragile. Super duper micro fragile, just so small. If you knocked into it, it would fall over and shatter into a million billion pieces. So we need to protect it. And of course, that, I mean, all of that, it ties into the whole climate change agenda and protect the planet, the polar bears, all that. So it's interesting because a lot of people, they tend to say, well, if they did fake the moon, well, the Apollo moon landings, why did they fake it? And that is a good question. Of course, there's probably several answers to it rather than just one singular answer, given the nature of the beast. They know how to capitalize on any agenda they put forward. So there will be multiple tentacles, reasons for NASA itself, but faking the moon landing is indeed a good question. Why did they do it? What was the point in faking it? Anybody want to take a crack at that? I've got a few things that I reckon why, but I mean, I'm unsure. I would be interested to know what people who, when they were alive during the Apollo program, what they would have thought back then in regards to where's NASA going to be, say, in the year 2025. What are they going to be doing? And I can imagine what they would have said. Because at that time, the plan, the master plan, implemented by every regime, shock horror, no matter who or what color, the plan was to we'll go to the moon and then we'll build a base on the moon. Right. Okay. and then we're going to go to Mars and we're going to colonize Mars. That was that was even talked about by the guy von Braun, Operation Paperclip, German Nazi von Braun, of course, who ran away to America. I mean, what an absolute scoundrel! Just imagine doing that to your country as well. I just think, what an absolute rat of a man. I mean, I know he would have probably been convicted of war crimes. People might call it that. I'm unsure about that, to be honest. I mean, imagine the UK and in America talking to someone about war crimes. Ah, man, can you imagine? Oh, Jesus, how much would you laugh? So I find that funny, but yeah, I'd imagine they all commit these so-called war crimes and a lot more on top of it. And when it comes to NASA, I mean, Jesus Christ, the money they've took off the American people is quite astonishing. And what have they got to show for it? Are the American people happy today about NASA, what they've done and what they've seemingly achieved? I mean, are they genuinely happy? Are they inspired by NASA? I mean, I know a lot of younger generations maybe, but I think the older generations would say, look, stop spending money on just complete and utter nonsense. That's not doing anybody any good. It's doing nobody any good, man. And the money they've spent, even early on in the Apollo program, people said, look, come on, the money it's stupid money you're talking about here. Millions and millions and millions on trying to send a tin can with a monkey to the moon or a human. And it's like, yeah, it's going to be worth it. And if you look at anyone who looks into NASA and early on in the Apollo program, it's quite comical because they try and portray a picture where, oh, look, NASA it might cost a lot of money now, but NASA in the future, it'll make its own money and you won't need to spend money on it. And it's like, really? Because early on, they thought about, oh, well, we can commercialize space flight and build a hotel on the moon. Gonna build a hotel on the moon, and do you know all these talk about commercialization of the space industry and hotels in the moon, hotels in space, hotels on Mars, and it's like, honestly, man, and people buy it as well. They buy it. Honest to God, they buy it. I mean, everything that we're given from NASA, in particular the Apollo so-called moon landings, I don't buy it. It's clearly fabricated. It's a crime. It's fraudulent. On the other hand, I do know NASA and I guess the Department of Defense, I think DARPA, and what's the other one? I can't remember offhand, but they've got secret projects that we don't get told about it. I mean, how much do we ever get told about? Probably what, 10%, if that. If that, man, 10% if we're lucky. Probably, I would say maybe 6%. And the rest is just anybody's guess, man. And I would kind of dread to imagine. Do you know when they talk about secret projects, and in the past we've heard about example would be MK Ultra. I think what was that one called? I think Mockingbird, different Popeye, weather modification, stuff like that comes out later. We get told about it later. Some of the worst I've seen was it was actually the UK, but I'd imagine it's been done right across the board, I'm afraid. But in the UK, the British military, I think, yeah, the Royal Air Force, I'm sure it was. You can look it up anyway. But I think it was in about 1950, 60. The UK military and government possibly decided it would be a good idea to test. We're going to be testing a certain, what did they call it? An agent. So it was a chemical that would be sprayed. It was this particular chemical got sprayed from an aeroplane, a vehicle, and I think a boat as well. And basically, the chemical seemingly mimicked, as far as we know, it mimicked anthrax. So it was like an anthrax. I shouldn't laugh, but I mean that's an example of what goes on. And yeah, we got told about it years later, but the stuff we don't get told about, I dread to imagine. And I do, and I mentioned it before. We talk about the money that's seemingly being spent at NASA, and it's kind of like, wait, they're spending money? Well, here at NASA, and in particular, the Apollo program, looking at the moon buggy, the moon rover, and it's like, wait, how much money did it cost? So you kind of get the feeling money's there, but it's going somewhere else. So I would say, yeah, I'm open. I'm open to the possibility of secret programs going on, but I mean, good luck proving any of that. Good luck, because I mean, it's virtually non-existent, and I'd imagine programs like that are, I mean, even if they're heard of, it's years later, and I think they would be probably deep underground, way out the way of any nosy Parker that wants to stick their oar in. But we are in I guess you could call it a great reset. So yeah, we could see a lot of stuff come to the surface. To be fair, that could be the plan. That could be the plan. It would appear we are indeed in sort of knee deep into what they deem a great reset, brought about by certain entities, of course, not wanted by the anybody, not wanted by anybody. Talk about tyranny, right? And when it comes to NASA, there's not much they're not connected to. They've got their claws in so many things, man. So much. And it's like they've built this business that they've kind of made it so, oh, look at us. You need us. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't know about the climate change, and you wouldn't know about the temperature change, and you wouldn't know about the oceans, right? So they give off this impression like, oh yeah, we're doing a good job. We love the planet. We're going to show you how to look after it, which is a kind of, I mean, it's a key, very, very key element to bringing in what possibly you could call some form of one world order or one world government, and to be more specific. And the more I've thought about it, the more it begins to make more sense. Excuse me. In regards to what kind of role is NASA actually playing, but on top of that, not just NASA, but space agencies, because it's replicated in the UK, in Europe. I mean, India. India sent a parcel to the moon, a delivery, and Japan, China's in on it, Australia, I think even South Africa, I'm sure I've seen. All these different nations building their own wee Hollywood space entity. And it's like, it's interesting because the more it tends to happen in different countries, I begin to look at it like, is this going to be a key part in implementing this? Because what they're going to need is, they're needing like a one world, like they've talked about before. They need I guess, an enemy that's going to scare each and every nation on Earth, right? And if that's going to come from space, ET, whether it be what they deem ET or an asteroid, then these particular space stations probably will play a role in it. And they'll probably help in implementing some form of what they'll call a global structure of these agencies, which could probably, in the blink of an eye, transform into some form of, going out on a limb here probably, but some form of council, world council, basically, due to the threat of ET. But I reckon, I mean, currently, it would probably be a meteorite or an asteroid that would shake a lot of people up. I mean, could you imagine the panic and fear if, I shouldn't laugh, right? If NASA came out and said, oh, by the way, in about a week's time, there could be a comet that hits planet Earth, wiping out, I don't know, 60% of the world as we know it. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to even kind of imagine what people would be like. It would be mayhem, right? Yeah, it's hard to kind of imagine. I mean, I can't see that personally. I can't see that day ever coming, but I can see them pushing it to a point where they can use it to their own advantage, because that's where they're masters in that respect. And they're masters when it comes to an enemy. Do you know when they talked about, oh, a war on terror? And it's like, wait, a war on terror? And a war on anger and hate. So remember, you're not allowed to hate, and there was a war on hatred. So they have they're great at the creation of these pretty, I guess, invisible enemies that you can't see, like the Taliban or Al Qaeda. And ET could be one of them. ET could be the star character in that respect, because again, that would be it could be portrayed as a threat, an enemy, in which we need to unite against ET and his buddies when they come down and destroy the world. I mean, would people even care? That's another thought that I've had. Do you know if they talked about an alien encounter, invasion, or a meteorite or a comet coming? On one hand, I think people would lose it. They would be insane. On the other hand, I think people probably wouldn't care. They would just carry on. And when I remember watching Don't Look Up, and they're in that film, the two main characters, the scientists, the NASA scientists, DiCaprio, they're talking about, oh, look, a comet's going to come and destroy the world. And people are just not even taking it on and laughing and like, yeah, okay, whatever, right? What's the move on? What's the next joke? And part of me thinks that, I guess, it would be a mixed reaction to to any such incident. I can't see it happening, to be honest. Has the Earth ever been hit by such a thing? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I've seen stuff in the night sky. And I know historians talk about, well, it got hit here and it got hit here. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's been hit. But as far as I'm aware, in my lifetime, it's only been hit by very small, teeny weeny meteorites. And even then, it's been kind of questionable. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. But at the end of the day, if there is to be such an event, they probably wouldn't tell people. I don't think they would bother. What would be the point? What would be the point? There would be no point. So if they are, in my view, it's more to keep people in a state of fear rather than to warn you about an incoming so-called asteroid. They love people in a society just in a state of complete fear constantly, man. So you're almost guaranteed a continuation of different wars, different scenarios, horrendous weather, just constant, man. On top of that, what they deem major events, as an example, 9/11. But more and more, we'll see more. It seems to be more war driven at the moment, but I mean that Zelensky and Trump, that was quite funny. That, honest to God, man, talk about comedy, absolute comedy. I mean, I knew politics was a circus, but what an absolute clown show, man. Honestly. So I think lately as well, Trump had Starmer, the UK guy, Kid Harmer, and then Zelensky. And I mean, that was just an absolute comedy show. Absolute comedy show, man. It's just, honestly, it's kind of surreal when I was watching it, kind of thinking, wait, what? What the heck's going on? Do you know, he's expecting them to stand up and say, it's all right, it's a comedy show. It was an AI sketch. But that's where we're at that point now in the political landscape. It's basically entertainment on steroids, and a lot of people, the sheeple in particular, they cannot get enough of it. They cannot get enough. It's just, they lap it up constantly. And they've picked Trump, I think, for many reasons, but he's one of these characters as well where, I mean, the guy's an actor. Is he a good actor? I'd probably give him that, to be fair. He's quite a good actor because he's definitely got a lot of people fooled. That's for sure. But he's one of these entities where you've either got no time for him or you like him. There's kind of no in between. But when you've got the kind of woke left America, they seem to thrive on hatred and just bitterness, man. So even when they're not winning, they're still very active in consuming the whole political industry in any way they can. So, I mean, the game continues, and they continue to do things that bring people into politics, and people get attracted to it, and that's what they do. History's shown us that. And I got fooled by politics once. It fooled me twice, and I can tell you now, it will not fucking do it again. Touch wood, right? It's not doing it again. So I'm not giving them the chance. Let's quickly say hello, and then we'll jump into the deep end, right? And I think what we'll do is we'll kind of, it's not a gigantic book. So we'll take our time, we'll break it down to maybe possibly 3 streams, right? But I think in between we'll do a stream on the Jerry and Kate McCann. I want to do a kind of statement analysis of 2 or 3 maybe interviews that Kate and Jerry done. So we might do that in between. So we'll do 2 probably, and then we'll do the McCanns, and then we'll finish on NASA mooned America, and then we'll go straight into what was it again? Georgia Guidestones. And I look forward to talking about that. A topic that caught my attention quite a good few years ago now. And it's I mean, I'm very, in terms of investigative skills and journalistic skills, I'm very amateur. I don't hide that. I mean, it is what it is. But I reckon there's a but. I reckon with the Georgia Guidestones and what I've done there, I think I might have possibly cracked it. Possibly. As a sneeze. Oh, Jesus. One's a miss, two's a kiss, right? So there you go. I could have put the mic off, but I'm not that quick. So who's in the hood? There we go. Oh, Sean's here. Good to see you, Sean. Hopefully we're okay for the audio. Let me know. Good to see you back again, Sean. Feel free to share any information on NASA that you can disclose to us tonight, right? Especially if it's about the Black Project. Katie in the hood, Katie Kane, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Frank, our Irish brother, I hope you're doing good, Frank. Arms is in the hood, good to see you. Arms, back again. Frank, the beautiful Justine, back again. I hope you're doing well. In the hood, Rebecca in the hood, good to see you. Analog synth player, Sunsets in the hood. Hope you're doing well. Howdy, howdy. There you go. American, possibly. Who else did I see? Rebecca, Justine, Analog. Carl's here. Good to see you, Carl. I hope you're doing good. Dangleberries in the hood. Good to see you. And I reckon, is that Kieran? Yep, keep an eye on Kieran. A troublemaker, right? Keep an eye on Kieran. Good to see you, Kieran. Lance as well. Nearly missed you. Good to see you, Lance. Start in the garden. Hey, good place to start, right? Always a good place to start. And a good place to finish. A good place to end, possibly, right? Good to see you, Lance. Anybody else there? Lucy in the hood. Good to see you, Lucy. Carl, Frank, Hoax is here. Good to see you, Hoax. And I reckon, nope, Budgie Burger. Good to see you, Budgie. Frank as well. Frank, the information tank, back again. And thank you for the emails, Frank. Tight Scotsman in the hood. Of course, no such thing as a tight Scotsman. Fake news. I'm going to have to report the name. It's going to be, I'm going to have to put a Wikipedia box on it. Imagine, hey, let's not give them ideas, right? Imagine that. There you go. Tight Scotsman, Sean, Justine, Darryl as well. Good to see you, Darryl. I hope you're doing good. Kieran, And I reckon hoax, Rebecca, quite a few, man. Oh, Jerry, there you go. Good to see you, Jerry. Our Irish brother. Anybody else quickly? I reckon. Oh, they are already here. Just joined your Twitter this week. Oh, cool. Fantastic. Welcome. They are already here. Yeah. Is that the aliens or is that someone else? Who was it that said it was the guy? I've got the clip. I play it. What was Reagan? He said they could be. They're already here. They're already among us, right? I tend to think that as well. Do you know? And I've talked about it before. And it used to be a topic. I used to be quite not fascinated, but interested and like the idea of aliens and ET and UFOs but that it's long kind of gone now, to be fair. I just can't see it in terms of ET. Excuse me. Now I could be wrong. Chances are I probably am. I probably am wrong, but in my own view, outside of our own realm, this earth, there's not what you might call any living being or creature. In terms of the world that we're in, though, now that's a different story. So I'm more inclined to believe a form of, call it an alien breed, if you like, being already here on Earth, but we don't know about it. Again, going back to the percentage of which we get told, probably similar to the percentage of what we actually know. And I think when it comes to the world that we're in, oh man, I think we've been so pulled away from what it really is and its true, I guess, power and capability. Because I think the connection between us and the earth itself, without getting too hippie, it's been, it's clearly been, it's been detached with a machete, just right down the middle, detached completely. And I think we've kind of, as humanity, I think we've lost our way a bit. But it's not due to we fell and bumped our head. Well, you could call it that, but we've not fell by accident. We've been, I shouldn't laugh, we've been pushed over. And I tend to laugh when so-called experts talk about history and the facts of history. And it's like, come on. I mean, what can you really take from history as a concrete fact? And I think that kind of puts me off journalism and history, because it's like you've kind of got to follow a particular narrative, even in the work that you do. Historians and journalists, we see that today. There's no freedom in that respect. I think there might have been at one point, but not today. So good to see everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. What day are we on? Saturday. I reckon we could go until about. I better not say. Not too late, because it's gonna be over 2 or 3 possibly. I don't think it's gonna take 4. Right. Let me see if I can work this screen. I'll try and jump back and forward to the comments, but hey, you know me, right? And so we'll try and add stuff as we go. Possibly sharing and possibly looking stuff up. Excuse me, I'll grab a drink. Double whiskey. That'll do, right? Double whiskey on the rocks. And keep them coming. You can tell I've said that before. Long ago, though. Long ago. So we're back again. And tonight we're basically looking at, I guess, yeah, you could call it a review. A review of NASA Mooned America by Ralph Rene, the inventor of the heartburn tablet. That would be him, right? Ralph Rene. So we might look at Ralph a wee bit as well. But we're going to start with the book in particular. But I think Ralph could be worth a look at, and also his background. I think we'll definitely get to know him a wee bit more as we go on. And there is different pictures that we can look at. Hopefully, you can see it all right. And I can't remember how many pictures are in the book, but it's not just a book full of pictures. So you're out of luck in that respect. So it's good to see everyone. And let me just make sure we're good to go. Did we get an audio check? I'm assuming we're all good. Because I never seen it. I never seen it, right? So maybe if you did, I apologize. I'm terrible. I can't read and do shout outs at the same time. I could just see the name and say hello. 9 times out of 10, the comments just a blur. Just me, probably, right? My eyesight's yeah, I've still got it at least. So I'm grateful for that, I guess. Sound is good. Justine. We'll take your word for it, Justine. And Frank. So I know who to blame, Frank and Rebecca. So 3 of yous up for the chop if I don't like it. It's been all right. It's been a while since we've had, because yeah, it can be frustrating when you get audio issues. And it's bad enough for me with my accent and just me as a person. So I like to, and I think, I'm not a professional, don't get me wrong, shock horror. But I do think that it is good if you can have a kind of professional sound to it. Not to me, but to the audio at least. Because it's one of these things that, would I call it a pet hate? It's just a stupid thing that annoys me. Because in the end, it doesn't even matter. I still listen. It's still the same. So, but I do. So we have got quite a decent microphone, which it was a present given to me. I think back in maybe 2020, actually, and I've still got it, and it's still going. It's still holding up, surprisingly enough. I don't know how, but after everything I've said into it, you'd think it would have probably jumped out the window by now. Nah, hey, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't, right? But that'll give you an idea. But yeah, so I do, in that respect, I do try. But again, I can only work with the tools that I've got, right? Hey, you're guaranteed to get a laugh at least, and usually at me rather than with me, right? Did you ever get told that at school? Oh, they're not laughing at you. Oh no, they're not laughing with you. They're laughing at you. And it's like, right, okay. Still funny, right? Was that just me? Do you know, I don't think it got said to me actually, but I'm sure I remember it got said to someone. But yeah, that was I was kind of a bit like that at school, to be fair. So it's going to be focused on NASA. I think the Apollo programs. The book, as far as I'm aware, it came out in 1992 or 3, possibly 5. Right, so take your pick. Right, yeah, it's multiple choice. So it was early 1990s. So it was mainly focused on Apollo and where they were going to go from there. I think the space station, I think there was Soyuz and stuff like that. And some of you might remember, I've got a video on my channel, and it's Michael Collins, and he's caught in a kind of hot mic situation, if you pardon the pun. And he said he's talking about the Soyuz, and he says the Soyuz is not real either, and it's like caught off mic. And I picked up on it. Again, a claim to fame that I've got, right? I mean, I've looked, I've done quite a bit of digging on NASA and Apollo. I wouldn't say I've done anything that is substantial, which it doesn't sound great. It doesn't sound great, that, right? Can get them off. I don't think nothing groundbreaking, but I've certainly accumulated a lot of information and knowledge, and certainly as time goes on, I'm beginning to notice a lot more things and pick up on a lot more things. Um, in particular, when in regards to NASA astronaut interviews, because they they give away a lot more than, I don't know, maybe they deliberately do, to be honest, but they tend to give away a lot more than they would care to imagine. And I'm beginning to, I think the more I look at, the more I research, the more I can put stuff together and call it out for what it is, rather than just picking up a topic and look, there you go, there, that bit there, and it's a spectacular bit of information. I mean, I guess you can always be on the look for this kind of bit of information, but I mean, in reality, that's not. I think the main thing for me is my own curiosity that drives me, which might not be a good idea, because we know the story there about curiosity. But again, and I've said it before, you've got to kind of find that balance as well, because when you go researching a topic, you can you can kind of get bogged in, and no one will see you for weeks, just gone, because you're neck deep in documents and videos and all kinds of information, and it can do that. You can fall down a rabbit hole, and some people can just get internally stuck. And it can take over. To a sense, it can take over a person's life. And it to be honest, sometimes it's not even a bad thing, because I mean, what else are they going to do with their life? If that's who they want to be, it's who they want to be. But I think there can be, if you don't get that right balance, there can be a danger where you can overload on it. You can OD on it, man, basically. To put it in a Scottish term. So I think it's good getting that balance. For me, it's kind of like I'm always looking at something, so it's good for me to have a kind of multiple options to be looking into. Do you know, different topics from different times, kind of depending on how I feel a lot of the time. If I'm down and out, I'll do stuff that probably involves plants or that side, nature, possibly. Other times I'll be looking into stuff that's proper grim, but the reason that I'm doing it is again, I think curiosity, but I look at so much things and different topics and different situations. I'm only drawn to certain stuff. So it's not like anything or everything. It's only certain stuff that I feel, I don't know, man. I kind of want to say a connection, but I don't know. There's an attraction to it for some reason. And that then kind of leads to this kind of gut instinct feeling that, hey, there's something here that you need to be looking at. So if I don't feel it's worth looking at, I tend not to. Do you know? So I do try and pick topics that, I mean, it will be ones I'm interested in, and I am open to suggestions as well, because we'll do this, we'll do the McCanns, we've done that before, and we'll do the Georgia tombstones, excuse me, which we've done before, but we'll kind of be recapping and reaffirming where we are in regards to who I believe is behind the Georgia tombstones, aka the Georgia Guidestones. So we're kind of covering old ground, but I think it's important to revisit certain topics to remember where we're at and just recap on it. So we'll we'll move forward, but I am open to any suggestions, right, for topics within reason, of course, right? I guess there's nothing that could be off limits, to be fair. But as long as it's interesting. But you know, again, even that stuff that I find interesting, people don't. That tends to be the case. It can be quite objective. Is that the word? So I tend to pick topics that I'm interested in, but I am open, like I said. So if you're willing, if you want to share, put a comment maybe after it, and hopefully YouTube don't fucking delete it, because they're good at doing that, right? Oh, we'll delete that. We don't want them covering that. So if you get a chance, if you think of a topic you want us to cover, and even if you think you want to come on and cover it, I'm open to that as well. You can come on and teach me about it. Show me a thing or two, right? It doesn't sound great, that, to be fair. So I'm open to that. I'm willing to collaborate with anybody who's got an interest in a topic. But again, it's not going to be for everyone. But if you feel it's worth talking about, then I'm up for it, to be fair. And I tend to, anytime I think of that, I think about the quote from Jerry Cinnamon: "Every man's truth is another man's waste of time." And I don't think there's a truer quote to be found on planet Earth. There's simply not, man. Every man's truth is another man's waste of time. And if you've not learnt that by now, you'll learn it eventually, right? So good to see everyone. Let me make sure we're all good. We're all good for audio, and I will try and keep an eye on the comments. So I think that's the front page. Let me double check. We're sharing all right. We're all good in the hood. I think you can get it in coloured version. So the book is available to buy. I think I might buy it. I would like to maybe get my hands on one of the older copies as well. Bill Cooper covered it. Oh, it was quite a good show. I think he might have done 2 shows on it, and he covered the book and was talking about how, oh, I've been calling this out for years. Which I mean, I like Bill. I do like Bill, but I can see why people didn't like him as well. Do you know? But something, do you know, people are the way they are, and they're never going to be molded to a perfect character, but they are their own person, and I tend to respect people on that rather than how I would want them to be. And but I can't see. Sometimes he's a bit like, "No, I told you this, and I told you that." And nobody listened, and I was telling people years before this, and because I remember someone said, "Oh, Bill Cooper did some good information, but he's very..." What did they call him again? They called him very arrogant, I think, and just like too aggressive and too shouty. And I mean, again, that's him. That's the person he is. But some people don't want that, and they don't think he should have been like that. He should have been more polite and what have you. But I mean, the guy seemed to have went through quite a lot, to be honest. And another guy, I see Darryl in the chat, and I see Darryl over on Joe, the Fullerton Informer. He's another guy that I've got a lot of time and respect for. And there's another person I see people saying, "Oh, he shouts too much." He's shouting, and he's crazy. He's shouting, and he's very angry, and it's like, yeah, that's who he is, though. That's him. That's the way the guy is. That's the way. Let him be. Let him blossom in what he is, his true self, right? And I like Joe. I actually quite like it when he goes on a bit of a rant and he gets angry. I like to see that fucking anger sometimes. Because in reality, we should be angry, man. We should be seriously pissed. And that does boil to the surface from time to time, because we know the world that we're in. And I think Joe can be hampered because he can get angry about the world that we're in while driving a car. So it's like road rage plus anger about the world equals a very angry Joe. And I'm like, go Joe, you put the world to it, man. Put the world to it. And he does. He's a very smart individual. Been about for a long time, knows the score. Some people see him a bit too on the religious scale. I can see why they would say that, but I don't think he is, to be honest. I think anybody, even if they're religious or not, should probably listen to Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer. I think he done a video the other day, but he's not been on much. But similar to Bill Cooper, these individuals, they you're going to get angry, man, from time to time. I mean, if you didn't, you wouldn't be, you're probably not even a human, right? I mean, come on, man. And people talk to me in the past about how they'll talk about, Palestine and the bombing in Israel. And they'll talk about it like it's a new problem, like it just appeared. But again, it's old news. It's very old news. And they say, but nobody cares about it, nobody does anything about it. And I always remember the guy Jim Marsh saying, look, he kind of got asked the question, well, why are you not doing anything about such a conspiracy? And he said, look, the biggest conspiracy in the world happens every single day. And I've said this before. And they said, well, what's that? And he said, young children die of starvation right across the world every day. And people don't even bat an eyelid. They just continue on with their lives like it's not even happening. And that is, unfortunately, possibly the case with most things. Until people are seriously angry about a situation and react, people just carry on. And Jim was right. That probably is the biggest fucking conspiracy in the world. That young children in this day and age are starving to death. I mean, even in so-called well-off nations. And I think, I mean, it's a lot of the time we've got our hands tied. And not only that, you can put money into a charity, but all you're doing then is you're being robbed, because the charity's not what it seems. And they give all the money to the wrong people, and the money never gets given to the right people. Shock horror. Even the biggest charities. A lot of people think, we'll go to a big, well-known charity, and the people will get the money. They're the worst. They are the worst, man. And I mean, it shows you how sick and twisted the world is that we're in when you're trying to help someone and all you're doing is getting robbed at the same time. And people jump on all kinds of disasters, the earthquake, the tsunami, the drought. Palestine's one I noticed, and it was back in 2013. A lot of people getting different messages and stuff like that from people claiming to be a Palestinian refugee needing money, and my school got bombed and my house got bombed, and people actually sending money. So here you've got this wee Palestinian, no house, fucking no money, everything blown to bits, but they're somehow managed to send you a message for you to send them money. And I've seen a lot of people getting caught with that, in particular in the Scottish independence movement, which was kind of part tied in with the whole pro-Palestine stuff, which I was dead against it. I mean, don't mix it. Don't confuse it. Don't confuse it. People need to keep a focus on one issue, the main issue. Unite on that one issue. Don't drag another issue into it. I did not like that one bit, man. Hated it. And I remember when they talked about the EU, I pretty much knew then. I was like, nah, do you know what? It's not for me. It's not for me. Because there's no sovereignty in joining the European Union. I mean, come on, right? I mean, what is it? A joke? Of course it's a joke. People couldn't see that. I remember thinking back then as well, why can people not see that? How do these people, how can they sit there and say, look, we don't want to be in the British Union, but we want to join the European Union, but we want to be sovereign and independent. Oh, man. I did. I was genuinely shocked. And a lot of the people in that movement, the Scottish independence movement, oh, man. In particular, the SNP, hardcore SNP followers, they are completely and utterly insane. Honest to God, they're completely insane. They're bonkers, man. Completely and utterly brainwashed. So much it's they are actually evidence themselves to how much brainwashing takes place in Scotland in the political theatre, because they're evidence of it, man. They're so brainwashed, and they won't have. It's quite funny. They won't have anybody say anything bad about the SNP. So it's comical because in their mind they can do no wrong. They're completely perfect. I mean, talk about tyrannical, right? I mean, it's totally tyrannical. But these people, I mean, you'd think I was joking. These people actually exist. And they won't have anything bad said about the SNP. That's in Bonnie, Scotland. So I wonder if anybody can tell me what mission this photo's from. Could I tell you? I mean, I could take a guess. I don't think it's an 11. I don't think it's Apollo 11. I think it's one of the later. I think it's one of the later ones. Maybe they'll let us know. But I think on the actual book, hard copy, it's in colour. I think you can see the camera there. Hasselblad. And what's he got? A test tube. Yeah. I mean, what even... Is there any notable experiments that they done? We're going to take samples and pick up some rocks and do experiments. What experiments did they do, like? I mean, what would you... If you were given the task of putting a man on the moon, what would you get him to do when he got there? Would you give him a particular task to carry out? I mean, for me, ultimately, it would have been, look, we'll send a man to the moon, but to the far side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, and we'll set up a TV camera, we'll get photos, we'll put a big fucking telescope, and we'll take pictures of the whole lot, rather than the surface we all see every day. But it was just, look, we're going to land a man on the moon. And then they decided, look, we better carry out some experiments. But, I mean, what did it come to? It came to nothing. But yet we're at a point today where they're talking about, well, we can mine and drill the moon and get minerals from the moon and turn it into water and live on the moon. Right. Okay. Huh. Well, I'd rather them than me. Put it that way, right? I mean, what's the deal here? What's the deal? Is the moon and Mars, is that going to be the get out of jail card for the masses in years to come when the world's, I don't know, frozen or in flames? Are we all going to be hanging on to Elon Musk's fucking rocket like Indians at the airport? That's a thought, right? That's a thought. I mean, it's yeah. Do you know? I don't think they would be going anywhere, so there would be no much point hanging on. To be honest, I noticed one of Musk's rockets as well fell down in Poland. Nobody got injured, but it's on the increase where these so-called rockets that are being sent out to space are just, funnily enough, falling down onto the ground. Do you know as well? I noticed I was playing. I think it's GTA 5. I can't remember what one it is. Grand Theft Auto. And there was a garage or a company, and it had the X, the letter X, and it was like the exact same X as X Twitter. And I thought, is Elon stole it from GTA? Honestly, I think it might have been. Is it Vice City? I can't remember. I'd have to check. But it's the exact same X on GTA as. I mean, Elon. Anything he has ever done has never ever been his idea, and he's even stole X to a T. The how the logo's designed from GTA, which came out, I don't know, man, years ago now. But again, another con artist, Elon Musk. Quite incredible. We went from the guy being at SpaceX to buying Twitter to being in the American government in the blink of an eye. And it's like, wait, what? Elon Musk? Okay, now. I guess maybe America's lucky he can't be president, right? Because he's what is he, African? I think he's African. Or is he Australian actually? He fucking looks like an alien. Australian. Maybe that's what he is. Gonna offend the Aussies now, right? No, I think he's from South Africa. But I mean, when you look at him as well, oh my god, man. In terms of his character, his past, his family, their past, and people think that he's a good guy. Man, honestly, we're going to be walking right into it again. Walking right into it, man. And of course, they're going to do things that are going to make people think, oh, well, they must be good. Because they know what a woman is and what a man is, right? Yeah. But I can guarantee you, man, at the end of the day, when the fat lady sings, people are going to be disappointed by Elon. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first to say, like, by the way, maybe he was actually all right, but I wouldn't hold my breath there, man. And the fact that he's now at some form of political entity, I mean, come on, that's like a knighthood into the Hall of Fame in terms of deception. The Deception Hall of Fame. That's what entering into politics gets you into? In short, it's a stamp of approval that you're a lying bastard. That's what that is, man. Because if you can lie like there's no tomorrow, there's going to be a place in politics for you right now. So if you are a good liar, get your CV into the Labour Party, Westminster, right? Of course, you would have to be a heartless, satanic, messed up individual to, maybe not satanic, but a messed up individual, at least, to want to join the political theatre in the UK. Honestly, you'd have to be, I mean, you can see why it attracts a certain character, in particular, those of the psychotic scale, the psychotic spectrum, should we say. And they fit right in there perfectly because they can lie. They don't care. No empathy, no thought or feeling for anybody. A lot of the time, not even themselves, man. So they're the perfect individual to be a political leader. And it was quite incredible with Biden. They seem to go they went one step farther than just having someone who had no empathy or feeling. They pretty much went with someone who could replicate a fucking dead body. I mean, you would have got more sense from a dead body. Let's be honest. I bet you any money there's a undertaker out there who had a better conversation with a dead body than you would with Joe Biden. I mean, come on. What was the one I said again? I thought it was quite good. You would get more sense from a broken table leg than you would from Joe Biden. I thought, hey, I'm here all week, right? I thought that was quite good. I thought, do you know what? People should write that down. I should be like a comedy writer for, I don't know, who's a funny comedian these days? Billy Connolly? Is he still about? He's still about. I think he's got, is it Alzheimer's or dementia? Which is quite sad. There was a documentary with him, and it was quite hard for me to watch it, to be honest. It reminds me a lot of my dad, and yeah, it was a bit like fuck, and kind of feel for the guy. Surprised, I don't know why, but surprised he's still about today, given the background that he had. But I think he got away from the kind of mincer of life by making a good bit of money and getting away from the grinder, right? And yeah, because growing up in that sort of areas of Glasgow and that particular period of time, not good. Not a good time to be growing up. At least I don't think you wouldn't think, but kids were probably happier then than they are today, which is, I mean, how does that even happen, right? So let me see quickly if I missed anyone. Nathan in the Hood, good to see you, Nathan. JP in the Hood, good to see you back again. Anybody quickly? We're all good. We've got two Franks in the Hood, Frank Barron and Frank the Information Tank. So good to see everyone. We're cooking by gas. We're on. Yeah, we've got people on X and people on YouTube. So good evening. Hopefully everyone's having a good weekend, right? Let us know what you're doing. What's the do you know what actually on the radio, because I was listening to the football scores on the radio, and it came on, it finished, and then a news bulletin came on, and it was talking about wildfires, the potential threat of wildfires in my area, in the northeast of Scotland, in February. Well, March now, isn't it? The 1st of March now. In March, wildfires in the northeast of Scotland. And I was like, wait, what the? So I don't know. It's weird. Never heard anything like that in my life. In March. I mean, even in the summer, it's rare to hear of that. But now, in Scotland, it's like, well, wait a minute. Could they do to the UK what they've done to America? I don't think we could rule that out, to be honest. I don't think that, well, to be honest, I thought it was quite safe here because of the military, how close, but maybe this would actually be the prime location for them to clear the way and take more land. So I don't know. I just find it a bit strange, man. I'll look into it and we'll see what's being said. But let me know where you're at, and without giving away your full address, let us know where you're at and what the weather's been like. And engage in a polite and respectful manner, right, Kieran? Ulick, Jerry, Jerry's all right. Jerry's a good lad. So, quite a interesting book. I've not completed it, to be fair, but from what I've seen, quite happy. I need to make it about that so I can actually see it, because eyes like they've been painted on. That's what I've got. His eyes are painted on. So yeah, I think it's 200 odd pages. Is it even that? 192, I think it says there. So we're going to stretch it out, and we'll do kind of in real time, checking up possibly on one or two things, right? And I'll try and keep an eye on the comments. So appropriate sayings, so like famous quotes, kind of. I think that's quite a good way to start off a book. Yeah, I think I would go with that if I was to write a book. What quotes would I go with? I don't know. I guess it would depend on what the book's about. What is your favourite quote? Has anybody got an actual favourite quote? Let's take this jumper off. We're heating up. Have I got a favourite quote? I guess that's life, but not as we know it. Probably going to be on my tombstone, my gravestone. Maybe I should just change my name legally to That's Life, but not as we know it. Nah. I guess it could be a what do you call it? Like what's the word? Not a political. A publicity stunt. That's the one. I was trying to call it a political stunt. Political in the brain, man. Like a publicity stunt. Or YouTuber changed his name to That's Life, but not as we know it. I suppose I could change it and then change it back, right? Or just stay as Mr., but not as we know it. First name, That's Life. Yeah, I think that would be a good way to start a book, to be fair. I think you can find some cracking quotes, man. I am a sucker for a quote, to be fair. So, C.D. Warner. People always overdo the matter when they attempt deception. Yeah, that is a good quote. People always overdo the matter when they attempt deception. And I think that is, I mean, you see that yourself from time to time with different agendas. They're always over egging the pudding constantly. And you see it with, like, in daily life as well. Do you know someone will be trying to tell you something, and you're a bit like, well, who you trying to prove it to? Who who you trying to tell, me or you? Do you know they're completely over egging and ramming it home, and when they overdo it, a lot of the times they don't notice they're overdoing it, but you can pick up on it, and I mean it wouldn't be concrete to someone being deceptive, but it would merit at least a raised eyebrow, right? At least. So I think you can, that not only is that a great quote, but I think you can see it in daily life, without a doubt. F.D. Roosevelt, repetition does not transform a lie into a truth. Yeah, repetition does not transform a lie into a truth. F.D. Roosevelt. So who's the guy F.D. Roosevelt? Is he not a political, what was he, president possibly in America? Repetition does not transform a lie into a truth. It doesn't, but I mean, it's a really interesting quote because it kind of gives the game away. Because all we get is repetition. But of course, it doesn't matter how many times they tell us. It's still going to be a lie. And I think we've seen that. I mean, we see it so much. We see it so much. The whole COVID scenario, we've seen it. This constant with the slogans. I think even going back to 9/11 with from the very second the incident happened, it was on television on repeat, 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 repeat. Constant, man. For about a fucking week solid, they played it over and over and over and over, constantly. And I guess the question there is, what were they hiding? What did they hide? People thought they saw what might have been a controlled demolition, but in reality, what they seen was a lot more frightening than a controlled demolition. That would be my judgment. Because what we seen that day, well, we hopefully won't see it again. Put it that way. And I would lean towards what you could probably call exotic weaponry. And maybe that's where the money's went. When we talk about where did the money go, maybe in the likes of black projects. I mean, that's the kind of thought, because when you think about, right, if a government's working on a secret project, what's it going to be? What is it going to be? Is it going to be a superfood that can feed everyone and can grow anywhere and is healthy and nutritious? And no, of course, it's not going to be any of that. It's going to be a fucking weapon. is going to be a weapon. Guaranteed. Because in this world, the biggest weapon wins. The biggest and best weapon, probably. And I think that would be that. I would put my money on that when we're talking about black projects. You know, people talk about Area 51, aliens. It's not that, man. It's more weaponry, in my view. The alien side of it. I mean, they could be working on hybrid clones, some kind of hybrid creations. That's a possibility, but it won't be ET. But of course, for the majority of people, anything they cannot explain is ET. But they forget we know very little. But of course, these individuals are of the mind, well, I know quite a lot, actually. And they get all their info from, I don't know, NASA and the US government and what have you. And they went to university, so they know everything, right? Yeah. So that's a great quote. Repetition does not transform a lie into a truth. English proverb, a clean glove often hides a dirty hand. A dirty hand. What kind of dirty hand, though? Let's not go there. Let's not go there, right? Possibly a nod to the NASA gloves that got made by the women who knew very little about their job. They just done as they were told and asked no questions and stitched it all together and sent them away into space, right? Sure. Why not? So a Hitler or a Hitler. I guess that would be Adolf Hitler. Some people think Hitler might have been a good guy. It's similar to how people today think Trump might be a good guy. It's history repeats itself constantly, day in, day out. But time will tell, and people will see. I'm afraid none of them are good guys. No good guy gets to be in a position of power. Come on, day one, lesson one. They are not elected, they are selected. For good reason, and not for our benefit, I can assure you. So, seemingly, Hitler quoted, "The great masses of the people will more easily fall victims to a big lie than a small one." Huh. The great masses of the people will more easily fall victim to a big lie than a small one. Yeah, that's an interesting quote. I don't know what I think about that, to be honest. I guess if it's too big, yeah, their mind somehow cannot comprehend it. But, I mean, when it comes to lies, it doesn't matter how big or how small. People tend to fall victim of them quite a lot, especially when it's a political entity. For me, if you're a small lie, right, can be as hard to see as a big lie, I think. So I don't know if it's a quote that I'm quite happy about, to be honest. I think me and Hitler would be having a square go. It's a stupid quote, but I kind of get it. I do kind of get it. But I'm a wee bit unsure of that quote. But I can see why Renee put it in. So the guy himself, Renee, the trouble with lying is that your lie changes slightly with each telling. So each time, a bit like Chinese whispers, do you know that a wee bit gets added on, a wee bit gets adapted, then by the end of the line, it's a completely different story. And that is the world we live in a nutshell, to be honest. In a nutshell, Renee nailed it. That's the world we're in. And you can apply that saying to all of their agendas: space, the universe, the moon, the convid, the microplastics. And do you know what? What Renee's quote there is basically the syndrome in a quote. So any agenda that comes out, we can look at it and we can tell by the narrative of the story over time if it's a lie or not. Because it continues to change constantly and it's adapted to suit the agenda constantly. And you can see that looking over the masses of media. And don't forget, media itself is a gigantic tool in predictive programming. And people forget that. A lot of people, they're quick to point at Hollywood. They're quick to point at the media. No, sorry, the TV in Hollywood. But I think the media, the print media and the fucking Sky News, CNN, what have you, the whole lot. That is one mass, gigantic machine when it comes to predictive programming. And that is clear to see. And I've talked about it before with the whole World War III scenario. The predictive programming is there. So in my view, you're talking about a 80% chance that in my lifetime, we're going to see what is going to be deemed World War III. What it will actually entail is another story, because that's going to be full of holes and deception, guaranteed. It doesn't mean nobody's going to get hurt or nobody's going to die, because people will. Because again, when you're dealing with the powers that be, the occult side of it, they do not miss a chance to sacrifice a few of the sheeple, let's say. And they done that on 9/11. It was part of a sacrifice as well. The old Egyptian calendar, the New Year's Day, September 11. Quite unknown to a lot of people. Of course, there's an occult connection to these incidents that happen. So I don't buy, and I mean, people can say and think what they want. I totally respect that, but I don't buy the nobody died story. I don't buy it. What I would have a question with is the figure they're talking about. What, 3,500 people? Can't see it. Can't see it being that much. I reckon 1,000 maximum, if you're lucky or unlucky. So I can see why people question it, but to say nobody died and to say the towers pretty much never came down, I'm going to need a bit more evidence for that theory. So what's a great quote, that one from Renee, the author. Herbert Spencer. Anybody know Herbert Spencer? Kind of rings a bell. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Contempt prior to investigation. Yeah. So not to be hindered in any way by thoughts or feelings when researching or investigating a particular topic. So that's why it's good to not have a dog in the fight. That would be, maybe people see that quote different, to be honest. That would be my conclusion. Don't be, you couldn't let, say, anger or some form of emotion judge your investigative skill. But I think he's put it in a kind of rather long way in saying, don't let emotion cloud your judgment. That would be my conclusion on that. Probably wrong. You meant what now? So, but I think, yeah, a good quote, because I do tend to think you need to start on an even keel while looking into it, and not jump the gun with a conclusion in your mind. And I think we've seen that in 9/11 as well. A lot of people instantly jumped the gun to it was a controlled demolition. But then when you study it a bit more, it's not your average controlled demolition. In fact, it's far from it. But you've really got to look. You've got to really look at it. And I mean, it's funny how they play it that many times and still some people don't quite see it. And there's many different theories, and I am open. Like I said, I lean towards direct energy, but I know there is other people out there who I think there's even someone talked about, direct energy and thermite. I would kind of say no, personally. I think I can't see that. And I have watched a lot of stuff in regards to people who support a thermite theory, but there's not a lot of weight to it. It's very kind of wishy-washy, all over the joint, at least the presentations that I've seen. But I'm like I said, I'm open to discussion. But when you read where did the towers go, I mean, it's extensive in the sense of the evidence it puts forward, and it has been, as far as I'm aware, it was peer reviewed, and it was given pretty much the green light and without question in regards to the information that's put forward. But you see, the issue is most people in so-called respected people who in I don't know, a field of experts like physics, if they're quite well known and well respected, they're not going to peer review where did the towers go, because they won't work again. They'll be packing their office away the next day, so nobody will go near it. It would be career suicide for a quite a well-known name to peer review the book. But it was peer reviewed, and I think there was one or two corrections, but overall it's pretty flawless, to be honest. And what we seen that day kind of defies pretty much everything we know. I mean, it came down in its own footprint in about 12 seconds flat. Gone. Not only that, it turned to dust before it even hit the ground. Because if it did hit the ground in its full form, there would have been a gigantic seismatic reading. You're talking about 500 million tons each hitting the ground. And they compared it to a jackhammer, an industrial jackhammer. How is that even possible? The environment of the towers was manipulated in some form by some form of frequency weapon, possibly, or even sound weapon. And it fucking ripped them towers to absolute bits. It annihilated them to the point where people who ran away and came back were like, wait, what? Where did them towers go? Oh, they're gone. What do you mean they're gone? The people that were running away, I thought had come back and only the top part had collapsed. The whole thing was gone. Both of them. Within weeks, the site was pretty much cleared, man. And look at the speed they cleared it as well, just finally, on that towers for the time being. Look at the speed they cleared it away and shipped it away to Asia and China. Never to be seen again, man, in an instant. Like it was all pre-planned. Right, boom, they'll come down, that'll go there, go to this part, we'll stack it up, send it to China, boom, finished. And it happened in quick speed time. And I would say it happened so rapid because the debris was so little. I mean, I'm not saying there was no debris. I mean, I do think that we've seen a form of direct energy and dustification, as it was called. I think Dr. Wood said 80%. I mean, she would know better than me before I say anything else. But I would have to maybe have I kind of feel it might be a bit lower than that. I kind of think we might be talking 60%, but I could be wrong. She would be in a better. I mean, she's the one with the masters and the PhDs, for all it's good for. But in the sense of physics and stuff like that, she would be in a much better position than me to judge it. But I just kind of feel it's maybe overshot it a wee bit at that percentage. But we'll get into that in a future stream that might possibly have to be on X only, because it will be X-rated, and it'll probably get kicked from YouTube because, of course, they don't like me talking about 9/11. It's nothing to do with me. They just don't like people talking about the topic in a way that is not that does not mirror the official narrative, because oh no, that's hateful and just not good, right? We know the game that we're in. Let's face it. I mean, we've been doing it. Well, we've been doing it. What, 5 years? Let me pick that up. There we go. So what? 5 years. So we know the game. Rumble, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have got Rumble. Probably could, actually. We probably could put it out there. Yeah. I was thinking maybe the McCann's one as well might have to be a kind of X-rated, because I know YouTube don't like that either, unless you're supporting Jerry and Kate McCann. I mean, talk about criminals, right? Honestly, man. I've been dissecting 2 of their interviews, and oh my God, honestly. It's blatant. So blatant they're being deceptive in how they come across. I guess there's no question they're lying, but the question is, what really happened? I'm unsure, man. Kind of dread to imagine, to be honest, but it's one we're going to get into. There's a sucker born every minute. R.T. Barnum. There's a sucker born every minute. Yeah. I mean, you would have to agree, right? I mean, I'm evidence. I mean, there's evidence of that, right? Yeah. I think we sometimes underestimate the stupidity of the world that we're in. And we sometimes give ourselves more credit than what's due. Just me, probably just me. R.T. Barnum, does anybody know who he is? Answers in the chat, right? First one wins. Introduction. So here we go. We'll get into it at least. And then, because what are we on? 150? Yeah, we might go maybe 2.5 hours, right? Seeing as it's you. So we'll see. But we're going to come back to it. We're going to do it over 3, possibly. So, Ralph Rene, NASA mooned America. Catchy name, right? You can see what he's done there. Great name. So, our space shuttles routinely blast off to orbit the Earth. Right. There is not a single doubt that man is in space. Right. Okay. However, there is much doubt that any man has ever gone beyond the radiation shield provided by the Van Allen belts. As you will eventually learn from the chapter titled Sunstroke. Once beyond that shield, space is riven with deadly radiation from the sun. Dun dun dun. So that's the very first paragraph, which is, yeah. I mean, the shuttle, definitely they had a shuttle. Did it go into space? That's questionable. It depends on your definition of space. Deep space? No. No way. Earth, low Earth orbit, Leo? Yeah, possibly. Possibly. Not space like most people think of space. No. But the shuttle, yeah, I can give you that. It used to take off. It was like a wee fat aeroplane. Remember? Have they still got it? I'm unsure. Do you know they put protection shields on the space shuttle, and it was these sort of carbon. What were they? They were like specially made carbon, like slates. They would sort of stick them on to the shuttle. Do you know, like a fucking jigsaw? And guess how many they made to put on? Yep, you guessed it. 33,000 tiles got made to put on the shuttle. I mean, talk about a giveaway. I mean, it's just, yeah, I guess, yeah, if you don't know, you don't know, but a bit of a giveaway that. 33,000, no less, no more. And they were all like put on, if you look at it closely, They're not even put on straight. They're all like, I don't know, like Stevie Wonder put it on. Even though he's not blind, but it was like him. It was like he got given the job. So, I mean, it did run. Another thing that I tend to kind of dwell on is this, what they call the Van Allen belts. I mean, what proof is there of the Van Allen belts? Where is this proof, and who did it come from? Because I'm even a bit unsure about them. I would need to know a wee bit more about these belts that's talked of. And if it came from NASA, I'd be even more skeptical of it. But even by NASA's own words, they shoot themselves in the foot constantly. Constantly, man, at every turn. So once beyond that shield, space is riven with deadly radiation from the sun. Which, yeah, I mean, I could kind of buy that, being Scottish and being radiated from the sun. Yeah, I could buy that, to be honest. To continue, the table of contents should be on this page. However, since NASA mooned America is a unique book, it required a different format. The old adage, quote, a picture is worth 10,000 words, close quote, still holds true. It certainly does. A picture is worth 10,000 words. Yeah. Yeah, when was this? 1990. Long before AI and anything like that. A picture today is not the same. You've not got the same trust with a picture anymore. You can't trust anything, right? There's not the same trust. But I guess even in that, a fake picture can still tell you many, many words. We shall immediately present 4 pages of NASA-derived photos that will absolutely prove that NASA began to doctor photos 3 years before the Apollo missions allegedly landed men on the moon. Dun, dun, dun. So, yeah. When did I first see this picture that's about to get shown? It's from Gemini 10. It was actually in a German documentary. And I had to put the subtitles on, auto-translate. And it's a wee bit annoying trying to watch a documentary while trying to read the subtitles. I think I watched it twice. It's a good documentary. I think I shared it. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's in German. It was quite good. And yeah, I'm sure that alerted me to the Gemini photo. It was quite well known, even early on. And I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever. There's tomfoolery going on. I mean, it's kind of feel. I mean, how did they think people would be fooled by that? I mean, are people really that stupid? Is that a genuine question? Answers on a postcard, right? So let's see. What page? Page 4. The 0G aeroplane. Ah, yeah, of course. The 0G aeroplane, which is, I don't know, the space station probably. Pretty much, right? Yeah, I think the 0G aeroplane, I think some of the Apollo 11 footage in the module, I think that's what that might have been in a 0G. And you know, when they made the film Apollo 13, they actually used a 0G aeroplane. and kitted it out to make it look like a module. So basically, they done exactly what NASA would have done or did do. And it was kind of like giving the game away. Because if you go and watch on YouTube, you can find the making of Apollo 13. And it shows you they're in, I think they call it the vomit comet. Because it can make you sick. And obviously, when you come out the loop, you're hit the ground. And they kitted it all out and set up the cameras and made it look like a module, like they were in space. And they done it exactly how it would have been done if NASA were to fake it. Which is probably exactly what they did do. And the guy, Ron Howard, the director, he even said, I was collaborating with NASA. And Buzz Aldrin, at the premiere of Apollo 13, Buzz Aldrin said to Ron Howard, where did you get the footage of the launch? I've not seen that footage. And he said, oh, it's not NASA footage. We made it. We made that footage. And Buzz Aldrin said, oh, maybe we could borrow it next time. Which I thought was a bit of a giveaway to NASA, right? I mean, why would he want a fake launch? So that's a bit of information that I've picked up looking at interviews from Ron Howard in Apollo 13. So there's wee nuggets of stuff in there. And I remember as well, they were talking about how a lot of this stuff at that particular time in Hollywood, they never had the top state-of-the-art CGI, fucking AI graphics. So obviously it was a lot more models that got made, miniature models. And of course, Apollo 13, they employed a guy who was one of the kind of go-to for making these models. And he approached NASA to get information on how to best make these miniature models that can be used to recreate space and a space launch. And the guy at NASA, believe it or not, was a miniature model enthusiast. He was big into models. Now imagine that. One of the top guys at NASA, knowing a thing or two about making a model. Yeah, just a coincidence that? Sure. Why not, right? So the comet vomit, that's what they call it. That's about as close as you get to space in the comet vomit, the 0G aeroplane. So this photo in Carrying the Fire, a book written by Apollo astronaut Michael Collins, was snapped by a professional NASA photographer as the plane flew an outside loop to temporarily eliminate gravity. Ooh, like magic, right? The cabin is padded to protect the occupants from the inevitable fall the instant the loop is terminated. Boom, hit the ground. Here, Collins, as he practices spacewalking, is holding the propulsion rod in his right hand. Note the similarity between this picture and the one on the adjourning page. Note also that the suit's wrinkles deny that it is inflated. That's another one that gets mentioned quite a lot. People say, oh, if the suit's inflated, why is there wrinkles and creases on it? And I think NASA apologists, they say, well, that's not the actual bit that's pressurized. That's the outside of the pressurized suit. So I don't know. I don't know what to believe there. But you do kind of get this impression if it's pressurized, it's going to be puffed out, right? There's not going to be any creases. And I mean, how could you even walk in such a thing? It would be a nightmare. And remember when we had Bart Sibrel on, I mean, that was quite. It was good talking to Bart. But remember, and it's in Bart's book, Moon Man by Bart Sabrell. Bart was saying that, do you know these spacesuits they made? They were big, bulky suits. They were heavy. All right, they might not have been heavy on the moon, but they were heavy on Earth. And of course, nobody's going to the moon. But seemingly there was trouble because they were getting people to go in the suit and jump about like they're on the moon. But it was hard work. It was so hard work. People struggled, and they couldn't do it for any longer than a minute or two, which was no good. That was no good. They needed someone who could get in a suit, was fit and active, and could jump about, basically, even in this suit, and act in a way like they're in a zero-G environment. And Bart said, when I asked him, he said, as far as he's aware, and I think it came from one of the guys who gave a deathbed confession, seemingly one of the actors who would go into the spacesuit was the guy, Bruce Lee. That's who he said it was, Bruce Lee. Which I thought was quite comical, man. I mean, of all the people. So maybe that's why they took Bruce Lee out. And I think his son as well. But seemingly it was Bruce Lee that got mentioned as to who was in this suit and was able to jump about like they're on the moon. And I had never heard that up until Bart mentioned it. And I'm sure it's in his book, Moon Man. A great book. You can get it on audio as well. We will get Bart back on again. I've been listening to his new book, which is quite interesting. And I'm hoping probably at end of March we'll look to get Bart on. Yeah, Bart was on. Bart's been on. In fact, it was on. How many times? I think 3 times now. I think there's 2 of them still available, but one of them got removed. YouTube gave it a strike. It was after the whole pandemic, and it was the first time I got Bart. Oh, it was a great stream as well. I think it had like 3,000 views, which is pretty good going for me, to be fair. And YouTube removed it, but then we had him on again, and I think we've had him on twice, which is still available. And I have spoke to him, and he will be on again. So I just need to kind of nail a date, and I'll get sent some, and we'll get Bart on again. And that should be interesting. He's an interesting character. Certainly got interesting stories to tell. And yeah, his book's great. His documentary's great. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Interesting that he got donated the money from a guy from NASA. I never really wanted to push Bart on that, but I kind of thought, wait, what? How does that happen? How does NASA, an individual from NASA, come out and pay someone money to make a documentary that's debunking the moon landing? I thought that was interesting. Maybe I can ask him about it in the future. But you'd think that would be the type of person that wouldn't want a documentary made. But yeah, Bart, I mean, me and Bart, as much as I like Bart, certain things I probably see it in a different way from Bart. And I know Bart, God bless him, I've got a lot of time for Bart. He kind of thinks that there's good people in the government and there's bad people in the government. And I'm more leaning towards they're all bad, to be honest. I mean, it sounds a bit doom and gloom, but for me, you're going to be hard pushed to find anyone who's good. And if there is someone who makes you think they're good in the government, they're pulling your leg. They've had you. They've duped you. They can play good cop, bad cop quite well. They're good at that. And they can fool people. But in the end, we're all victims to them. We're all victims of the agenda. And I've said that since 2019, 2020. We're all victims of it. We're all living in the beast system. Unless we somehow go and live in a 5-star treehouse. What chance have you got, right, of escaping the insanity? So it can be, again, it's all about balance, man. Trying to get the balance, because as mad as the world is, we've got to find some form of comfort, at least from time to time when we can. I don't know. Maybe I can ask Bart. I don't think he does. I don't think he's not mentioned, but I could ask him next time we get him on. I think Bart was more under the impression it was just he came across some people who, yeah, they were in the government, but they were willing to kind of let it slide and let him go, basically. There's a lot of people, they kind of pick, they struggle to believe Bart with some of the stuff that he's talked about. I mean, you've got to take it at face value as well. So even when I'm talking about Bart and kind of promoting his book, I'm not saying, look, take it as gospel. I'm saying it's a good thing to investigate, to look at. And I'm certainly not saying, look, go and get married to Bart Sabrell or go and get in a relationship. It's more, look, it's worth checking out, sort of thing. Because on a personal level, I don't really know the guy, so I can't really vouch. I can only go by and dissect the work that he's put out. On a personal level, I mean, I tend not to go there with folk. Their own personal life is theirs. I genuinely don't want to know anything about it. I've got no time. I've got my own fucking issues to deal with. So in terms of someone's personal lives, that's their thing. Hey, do what they want to do. But in terms of someone's work, then I'm certainly more than willing to look at that and take it apart and be open and honest about how I feel about it. Which is what I try and do. So I think maybe at the end of March, I'll try and make a note. We'll get Bart back on and we'll get Sensum out of his hiding again. He's like a hermit now. The backbone of YouTube has completely disappeared. I'm going to have to do extra streaming now just to keep YouTube afloat. Terrible, man. What a world we're in. All that curry, right? All that curry and no hurry. So, carrying the fire. I mean, that was Michael Collins's book, Carrying the Fire. I mean, you don't, honest, really? Carrying the fire. Honest to God, if that does not scream a cult to you, nothing will. It is so symbolic as well. Carrying the fire. And I mean, the guy who wrote the book, what was it called again? The 13 Families of the Illuminati. I mean, it was a great book. The guy done fantastic research. Pretty amazing stuff. But how he could come out and say that Michael Collins is not a globalist is beyond me. Honest to God, I don't know where that guy's head is at. And some of you might have seen the video that I put out of Michael Collins talking about how fragile the world is. It was like your thumbnail and you could put it in your pocket. It was just a teeny weeny fucking teeny minute world that if you went out in your car and drove around for a day or two, the world would die. So climate change is true. I mean, he pushed it in so many interviews and every chance he got, year after year, pushing this fragility. The world's fragile, pollution this, protect the planet. If that's not a globalist, I don't know what fucking is. And the guy ruled out Michael Collins being a member of the Collins Illuminati family. I'm sorry, but I cannot rule that out. I would not rule it out. In fact, it would make sense that he was. Because when it comes to Apollo 11, Michael Collins was the handler, and the two work dogs was Armstrong and Aldrin. Collins was the handler. The other two done the footwork. So they got to go seemingly on the moon, and Collins sat on the throne looking, and of course lost his camera. Fucking hell. Lost his camera. We'll get into that as well, because I mean, it's not mentioned as much as it should be mentioned, but it's something that I've picked up on, and it definitely needs to be mentioned, because it's a bit like, wait, what? How incompetent can someone be? And how did the guy manage to get 3 different flights as well? And he seemingly wasn't even a smart kid. And he was lazy, to his own admission. But somehow he ended up in that position that he was in. And he was, I knew, man, even before I connected Collins to the Collins family, I knew Collins was playing a certain role, and Armstrong and Aldrin played another role. And you could see it when they were doing the interview when they came back from the moon. And it was like they had just been to a funeral. And yeah, it was quite funny. But you could see from the body language that Collins was almost directing. He was directing Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in what they should say. He was like the director of the group. So I think Collins, in terms of being connected to the occult, I mean, come on, carrying the fire, talking about how fragile the world is, any chance he got. It was like the powers that be sent him a check every time he said the world was fragile. He was like every sentence, he anywhere he could fit it in. Oh, but did you know the world was fragile? And it's like, yeah, I thought you went to the moon to investigate the moon. You came back and all you've talked about is the fucking Earth. How does that work? So jumping back to the book Carrying the Fire. This photo in Carrying the Fire is a book written by Apollo astronaut Michael Collins, was snapped by a professional NASA photographer as the plane flew an outside loop to temporarily eliminate gravity. But it wasn't inflated because it was all wrinkly and creased. Let's zoom in a bit. So here's Collins. You can see his face clearly. It doesn't even look like he's got a visor. So that's him in the 0G aeroplane. There's his legs. Zoom out a bit. There you go. So that's him. That's clearly in the, well, you can kind of tell. It's in the aeroplane, right? So we take a mental snapshot of that. The Gemini 10 spacewalk. Because, of course, Gemini, what was it? They had Gemini, then they had Mercury, then the Apollo program, which got cut short because people got fed up and it fucking, no one cared about it anymore. But of course, NASA continued. The space race was over. Everyone went home, but NASA continued. The money continued. People asking no questions, bat no eyelid. And the people who do, unheard of, man. You won't hear from them. This picture was also extracted from Carrying the Fire and was allegedly taken during a spacewalk on the Gemini 10 mission exactly 3 years before his Apollo 11 mission to the moon. NASA claims to have landed the first men on the moon during this mission. He is shown holding a jet reaction propulsion rod with his left hand. On page 124 of Heroes in Space by Peter Bond, published in 1987, the year I was born, I discovered that Collins allegedly lost his camera on this spacewalk. That was a contrived excuse by NASA so they could turn a zero-G picture into one of a spacewalk, so no one would ask why he wasn't carrying his camera. Nice move, NASA, right? Yeah. He's not got his camera. So we'll say he lost his camera, right? Interesting. Because some of you might recall, Collins is not a stranger to incidents relating to a camera. And I thought, wait a minute, I've heard this story before. Because Collins, it wasn't Gemini I was reading about where Collins lost his camera. It was Apollo 11. He lost it there also. But there's more. So let me take you, right, quickly to remove, stop, present, share. Let me take you to, because I thought, wait a minute, I need to interrogate AI. Because I'm adamant, I thought, nah, wait a minute, I've read it was Apollo, and I think even another mission, but it wasn't Gemini 10. And I thought, surely to God, there's not 3 occasions where Collins lost his camera. I mean, that would be next to impossible, surely. Surely to God, right? Surely questions should be asked there, right? So after a bit of digging, basically, Michael Collins was involved in the Gemini 10 mission, which took place in 1966. During this mission, Collins and fellow astronaut John Young conducted a series of spacewalks and docked with another spacecraft. Sure they did. While Collins did not lose a camera in the same sense as with Apollo 11, because he lost it there when he was on his own circling the moon, he lost the camera. It, like the most important time. I mean, how could you even lose it in a tiny wee fucking tin can? Come on. Really? There was an incident during Gemini 10 where a camera was accidentally released into space. Yeah, fucking hell. The camera was a 16mm movie camera that was used to document the mission. It was lost during a spacewalk when it slipped from Collins' grasp. Right. So it slipped out his hand, not attached in any way, and floated away into space. And on Apollo 11, he was circling the moon, not a care in the world, going to take photos of the far side of the moon, going to impress everybody with these magical photos. No, nothing, because he couldn't find it. He misplaced it, seemingly. And I think even maybe to this day, I think they did say it got found later, but of course he never used it. But on 3 occasions we're talking about. Because So to summarise, Collins had incidents involving lost cameras during all 3 of his missions. I mean, talk about a sackable offence, right? You would have fucking chained it onto him, the 3rd mission, right? Where's the camera? Right, glue it to his fucking chest. So Collins had incidents involving lost cameras during all 3 of his missions, Gemini 10, Apollo 8, and Apollo 11. Each of these incidents highlights the challenges and complexities of space missions. Sure. Sure it does. I mean, that's kind of fitting that, right? At these kind of perfect moments to, oh, I've lost the, anybody seen that camera? Can't find it. Yeah, or letting it go into space. I wonder where it is now. Yeah. It would be at Mars by now, surely, right? Of course, what goes up must come down. So it's probably in the Atlantic Ocean. But yeah, I mean, 3 times. And I think people have talked about one occasion where, but 3 occasions, man. I've not heard many people mention that. So tonight, you're getting to know for the first time that never ever, under any circumstances, give Michael Collins a camera, right? Because you'll lose it. And Collins was funny in Astronauts Gone Wild. He was like a complete and utter psychotic maniac. And he never even said anything. He hardly said a word, but he didn't have to. His body language and his reaction said it all. Said everything you need to know. The guy was a complete and utter psycho. Honestly, he was mental, man. So, where did we get to there? So it was contrived by NASA. On page 660 of Ain't Nobody's Business If You Do, written by Peter McWilliams, we find, quote, the film of Russia's first spacewalk was later proven to be shot in a studio, close quote. Shock, horror. Ain't Nobody's Business If You Do, written by Peter McWilliams. The film of Russia's first spacewalk was later proven to be shot in a studio. Oh, we're not sharing, are we? Where was anybody on that? We're not even sharing. Oh my god. I can't believe nobody said. Is it there now? There it goes. No one's listening. Never noticed it was gone, so it's all right. So that's better. It's better when it's there. Let's get a time check. Oh, we're cutting it fine. Cutting it fine. We'll go until 11, so about another 30 minutes, which will take us to nearly 3 hours. I think that'll probably be enough. I don't want to torture people. Get them off, it's torture. I could be used as a torture method. Just listen to his 6-hour rant on NASA. I remember I seen a comment, someone said, 3 hours, that's not a video, that's brainwashing. Oh man, that, to be honest, that did crack me up. That crack. I thought, do you know what? I'll give you that one. I'll give you that. But I mean, if you was to probably, do you know how these days a lot of these content creators, they'll create a video, then AI will fucking remove any like gaps in it. So it's like just words, no breaths, no gaps, nothing. I think my streams are probably 1 hour talking and 2 hours me going like that. So But of course, if you're recording it, you can cut all that out. So I don't know if I'd call it brainwashing, to be honest. But it was quite a good comment. I'll give them credit where it's due. 3 hours, that's not a video, that's brainwashing. But to be honest, I mean, we're not even that far in, and we're almost at 3 hours, so it's the way it goes. We know the world that we're in. And I like to take my time with covering stuff, and we will look at different bits, go off on sort of tangents that'll take us elsewhere. That book in particular. So where did I get to? I wasn't sharing, but so on page 660 of Ain't Nobody's Business If You Do, written by Peter McWilliams, we find, quote, the film of Russia's first spacewalk was later proven to be shot in a studio. Of course, the Russians were faking it as well. And they were probably worse than the Hollywood. They weren't quite as good as Hollywood. And I think that's why, I mean, Russia were ahead of the game for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, America was going to the moon, which shocked a lot of people. It was like, wait, what? But the Russians are going. They've done a rendezvous. They've done this. They've done that. But no, America's going. And it was like this game of, I don't know, like this game where NASA and the Russians played everybody off each other to get to a particular point. And we all got played, man. People got roped into what they called a space race. And in fact, it kind of coincided with the Cold War. And I think we're heading into that now again. I think they're gonna reignite what they're gonna call the new Cold War and the new space race. Yeah, I think the foundations are already there for that. I think there's a lot more to come from what they call space. A lot more. And it won't be, I think there's going to be new things brought in, new entities. So not just NASA, let's say. I think we're going to see more entering the ring. Where's that going to get us? So this, I don't know, has anybody read this book, Ain't Nobody's Business? If you do, written by Peter McWilliams. I think it could be a book worth checking out. I had a quick look at it. Ain't Nobody's Business If You Do. Peter McWilliams. 1996. Well, 1993, sorry. Ain't Nobody's Business If You Do, the absurdity of consensual crimes in a free country, is a 1993 book by Peter McWilliams. Victimless crimes, or crimes that are committed consensually, as well as arguments for their legalization. Part 1 gives a definition of victimless and consensual crime and outlines the difference between personal morality and governmentality imposed morality. Governmentality imposed morality. Now there's one. Have I ever heard that phrase? I don't think I have, to be honest. But I understand it. I certainly understand it. I think that could be a great book to read. I think that's one we might have to get into. It looks like it could be a cracker. I would be interested to see what it says about the Russian space program. I mean, it was again a gigantic con, and still today, India and Russia conning, and China conning the world, man, pretending that they've they've sent something to the moon. I mean, I don't know. I kind of think it's quite interesting how people can actually believe that. But then again, I did at one point, or at least I think I did. I certainly believed a lot in the physics side of things when it comes to the universe and stuff like that. But I think even early on, in terms of the moon footage in Apollo, I think I found it a bit dodgy. Even early, very early, looking at it a bit like, and what, this is on the moon? And wait, what? He phoned him on the moon? What, from a landline? Oh. And I think Renee had said in the book, look, in years to come, they'll have better technology and they could fool people easier. I don't know. I think people evolve alongside that, so if they are to fake it again or go to Mars and fake it, I think a lot of people will call it out for what it is. Well, I hope anyway. I hope. I'm adamant someone's going to see it and say, hey, wait a minute. That's not Mars, that's Nevada. I stayed there. Look, there's my house down at the bottom corner. So there you go. So I reckon that could be a book worth checking out. So there's Collins in space. Gemini 10. So that's him in space doing whatever it is he's doing, holding some kind of Zimmer frame. And there's him in the 0G. Same photo. Exact same. Flipped and altered to a certain degree. Background just blacked out. And they expect that to pass. Like people wouldn't notice, man. I mean, who done the Photoshop? Kate Middleton? Must have been Kate, right? Space Twins number 1. Following an obvious hunch, I had negatives made of both previous pictures. Then I had another negative made of the first photo, reduced in size and flopped over. Collins is now practicing with his left hand, the same hand he uses in his alleged spacewalk. I then had the Gemini 10 picture blown up until the figure of Collins was the same size as this one. So you can see what they've done, right? They flipped it about. I then rotated the blown up photo clockwise until the propulsion rod made the same angle across the page on both pictures. Even the expression on his face is the same. I mean, it's undoubtedly clear what they've done there. However, the negative of either picture placed over the print of the other produces a point-to-point coincidence until the binding line at the knee is reached. The missing area was removed when the photo was bound in this book. See, they were putting the book out to NASA before it went out. And of course, I don't think that would have been a good idea. I mean, why do that? Why do that? I don't know why they done that. Because on the back of the book, NASA went away and done a few things to try and make sure that no one else done a similar book. Of course they would. I think the most famous is probably Bill Kaysen. In his book, I think it's, what is it? We Never Went to the Moon. I think that inspired a lot of people to look into it. Look into it a lot more. It's not a book I've read, so it's one that we can certainly look at. Let me shift that. Why is it fucking moving? So, yeah. So, the missing area was removed when the photo was bound in the book. And of course, they sent the book to NASA. Which, yeah, okay. If I do the same to the original NASA picture, which took over 18 months to get from NASA, I'm surprised they even gave it. The point-to-point coincidence continues to the soles of his boots. Why did NASA feel it necessary to fake pictures and lie to us as early as July 1966? 3 years before Apollo 11, they were already working their magic and trickery with the fake the fake space Gemini photo. I mean, I guess they've got to learn, right? And that's basically what Gemini and Mercury, it was a big learning curve for the big show in Apollo, and of course the big ultimate show, Apollo 11. After that, nobody cared. Nobody cared. And it's quite astonishing to think that NASA still to this day are basically funneling millions from the American economy. And the question is, where is the money going? Because it ain't going on the fucking space program. What time are we at? We'll maybe do a page or two more. So this book is neither a thesis nor an academic dissertation, nor is it written by an academic expert. It provides a strong body of proof that we never landed men on the moon. I first reached this conclusion by examination of the photos you have just seen and others, and by dissecting direct quotations from the books of the astronauts involved in the Apollo missions and those of government scientists and engineers. Yeah. The good guys, right? NASA, scientists, engineers, people you can trust. Like the white-coated doctor. Who could never trust the white-coated doctor in all his cleanness? Yeah. The subject matter caused most publishers to reject this book out of hand without bothering to read it. Yeah. I think Bart Sibrel had similar. Most publishers said, no, no, thank you. No, thank you. It's a bit like a death wish, to be honest, because NASA, they do kill people. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They most certainly do. Guaranteed. So, the subject matter caused most publishers to reject this book out of hand without bothering to even read it. Shock horror. Some rejected it because I lack proper academic credentials. In this somewhat Orwellian world, many people with formal educations delude themselves into thinking that college degrees are a prerequisite for thought. Right. That's simply not so. I have very credible credentials for what I do. I am an ex-member of Mensa with an IQ in the top 0.5% of the population. I am an inventor who was granted, without corporate help, 2 basic patents. I am a self-taught engineer who has successfully designed beams, trusses, a mobile crane, boats, homes, factories, machinery, etc. I know they are successful because I built them with my own hands. So people have dismissed him for, I mean, what credentials would you need to debunk the moon landing? There's a question, right? Who would be best placed to come out and debunk the Apollo moon landing? Would anybody be best placed? What credentials would a person need to tell you that we're being lied to? A PhD in what? Common sense? Mensa sounds like a period. He was on his Mensa. He was going through a Mensa pause. Yeah, Mensa. I don't think I've heard of it. Although, I mean, we are talking early 1990s here. But the top, what, 0.5%? What did he say? Top 0.5% in terms of his IQ. And an engineer, a designer of machines and homes, you've got to be kind of pretty switched on, right? You're quite smart. I mean, I've met engineers, and to be honest, a lot of them are quite not very street smart, but they're smart in the sense of physics and mathematics and all the bullshit, basically. So, for over 20 years, I was the only disciple of Pete Ross, who had one of the finest technical minds on the planet. He was a hands-on person who could devise simple experiments to test almost any hypothesis with the same ease with which he could design and build a machine. Yeah, so he was getting taught by Pete Ross, who's seemingly quite a smart guy. He claimed I was one of the smarter monkeys. Bit racist. And he vowed to open my mind. Okay. Don't do it. He presented me with logic and examples that many times negated some small part of our accepted scientific beliefs. Frequently, when I left, I had severe headaches from the process. The guy was getting his mind blown, man. He was getting his wee brain blown. I wonder what kind of experiments he's talking about. In fact, let's not go there. Let's not go there, right? I know where that would end up. The only person with the proper credentials to write about the moon hoax are the very ones who participated in it. Michael Collins, Frank Borman, and Buzz Aldrin all wrote books about the Apollo 11 mission, which was a mistake because those books contain many revealing discrepancies. Yeah, indeed. This book was originally written because in 1990, NASA intended to take us to Mars the same way they allegedly took us to the moon. What, via Hollywood? The week before I finished this edition, NASA bravely announced that Martian life was found on a rock. They found it in Antarctic. Oh, fucking hell. We found it! The aliens are here! Wow! According to their professionals, this rock had smashed into Antarctica 13,000 years ago after being blasted off Mars 17 million years ago by a meteorite. Right. Therefore, since Antarctica accretes ice at the rate of 2 feet per year, they must have found it at the 26,000 foot level, which is rather difficult to do because there is only 10,000 feet of ice there. Whoops. Yeah, 17 million, 13,000. Hitting a meteorite. Yeah. Found it in Antarctica like a needle in a haystack. Right. To put the icing on the NASA fruitcake, about a week later, some lady astronomer announced that she had located the Martian crater. Oh, fuck no. She had announced that she had located the Martian crater from which it was blasted. Right. This means that although the rock was in space with an unstable orbit for 16,987,000 years, brackets, it hit us, didn't it? Close bracket. She was able to calculate backwards from the landing site of the rock. For starters, she had to know the exact time, direction, and velocity of the landing. Sure, she does. Of course she does. Yeah, the rings on the ice. I mean, the rings in the trees. I mean, carbon dating a meteorite. Yeah, the NASA fruitcake. I must admit, I do like fruitcake, but a NASA fruitcake? No, don't like it. Don't like it. Even with the icing on it. Nah, I can't do it. I couldn't eat it. It'd be too bitter. It would be too bitter. It would be blood-stained fruitcake, that, man. Blood-stained. So, yeah. I mean, I do tend to find these things comical where, oh, we worked out how this meteorite and where it came from here, and it must have came from there. And of course, they come up with a theory or a hypothesis. Then it changes because, like a lie, has to change continuously. So does these theories constantly being adapted, being changed. Oh, the moon's dry. Oh, the moon's wet. Oh, the moon's got water on it. Oh, we can live in the moon. I mean, what's next? A fucking palm tree on the moon. Oh, we found I don't know, a great white shark on the moon in a hidden ocean, deep underground, but nobody can see it. But believe us, it's there, right? There's Rich in the hood. Good to see you, Rich. We'll finish this page, and then I kind of want to keep going, but honestly, I think 3 hours is probably enough, and I'll let people get on with their day. So yeah, sure she does, right? That'll take us nicely to page 9. So I cite only secondary sources for information. Whistleblowers are never popular, and in the last few decades, many of them have worked in either atomic energy or space. Interesting. Atomic energy or space. Not having a suicidal urge, I refrained from blandly trapezing in the government archives, suspiciously searching for information. Yeah, creeping about at the back of the office, looking in the drawers. That would be foolish. Instead, I chose to dissect the work of other serious writers on space and various other NASA programs, plus the astronauts who wrote about their trips to the moon. Yeah, I can kind of see where he's coming from there. I can kind of see where he's coming from. But to send the book to NASA before you publish it, I don't get that. I don't understand. So we'll begin number 2 on page 9, and we'll get straight into it. Like I said, it's not a big book anyway, but it's certainly worth covering, and it's a bit different. Not so much like, I don't know, doom and gloom. it's still a bit doom and gloom, to be fair, but it's not as grim as Lockerbie. Yeah, there's more to come on that as well, Lockerbie. But I think next we'll do. I think what we'll do is on Monday or Tuesday we'll come back to the book, and then on the Friday we'll do McCann's live stream. It possibly won't be on YouTube, so I'll let people know. And I can't even post links on my YouTube. Honestly, man. Just censored constantly at every turn, man. And on Facebook as well. Not so much on X, but it's like a ghost town there anyway. It's like tumbleweed on my X. So I don't know. I mean, I'm still in a position where the channel could be terminated at any point. So I don't know. If the channel is to simply disappear, then you'll know where to find me. I'm over on Odyssey and Rumble, and I'll be on X. If the YouTube was to be yeeted and deleted by YouTube, the powers that be, the thought police, then I don't know. I still want to have my own website. So that is kind of still the aim. I just need to know a wee bit more about what I'm doing, because that would help, right? That would help. So yeah, I hope everyone's doing fine. Have I got a tune to go out? I don't even think I have. So we I think it's good to call it there. Otherwise, we'll go forever, which is probably what people want. To be honest, keep going. That's what I'm usually saying on a stream in the comments. Just go another hour. Just go until 12. Just go until 1. That's usually me. But it's good to see everyone. Lance in the hood. I hope you're doing well, Lance. And thanks for joining tonight. The beautiful Justine, always a pleasure. And I hope you're doing well. Thank you for your continued support and engagement right across the board. And Rich as well. I hope you're doing well, Rich, our Scottish brother. Arms as well. Always a pleasure, Arms. Good to see you. And you caught us live tonight, so always a bonus, right? I hope you have a great weekend. Rich, Frank as well. I'm sure I'll see you about, Frank. A good man, Frank, a lot of time. A lot of respect for Frank. Yeah, so... Oh, Lie as well. Good to see you, Lie in the hood. Lie to me. Yeah, NASA fruitcakes. Yep. Could not put it any better, myself, to be honest. Oh, Ulick and Joni in the hood. Pinocchio, yep. Good to see you, Ulick. I hope you're doing well. You old dog, yeah. Good to see everyone. Oh, Jerry as well. Hope you're doing well, Jerry. Over the ocean and Ireland. Carl as well. Good to see you, Carl. Always a pleasure. If I missed you, then you've got to try harder, right? You must try see me and try harder. Did anybody get that? Remember in school? I think maybe primary school for me. Well, fucking right throughout school. The teacher's note on the book. Must try harder. See me. Instead of like done well or well done. 10 out of 10. Very well done. And a stamp with a smiley face. And I'd get the see me in red pen. See me written aggressively. Just me, probably. Hoax as well. Good to see you, Hoax in the Hood. I've not got, forgot to upload another video for a song. So I guess we could maybe put out for a request, which is kind of, I tried to do it before, but I don't think we got any. Can I even work the screen? That would help, right? So it's good to see everyone in the hood. I'll see if I can get onto YouTube. What would be a fitting song? Given it was the Apollo NASA Mooned America stream. Why is it being a pain in the absolute butt? So I reckon it'll be Monday, and we'll be back again, and we'll get a catch up, and we'll go head first back into the what's it called? NASA Mooned America. Ah man, look, it's late, right? Just give me that at least. And I am trying to multitask at the same time. Is there any requests for a song? Why are we waiting for you to sing? We were waiting for you to sing. That's one way to ruin a show. So we won't do that, right? We won't have me. Hey, we're not that desperate to have me singing a number. Hey, I can't. The only people that get to hear me singing are me and the shower, the four walls in the shower. That's it. And I suppose maybe my wife can hear me. Where's a tune? Oh, I quite like that tune actually. Yeah, I think I'll play that. I think that's a good one. That's my Irish accent. So yeah, how am I going to do that? Let's see. Is it going to work? Yeah, I think it's quite a good song. It's not really well known, to be fair. So I'll play that, and yeah, hopefully everybody has a good weekend. If you've got any plans, let us know. Remember to comment on this. Remember to subscribe and hit the fucking bell. I'm always hearing people saying only 2% of people subscribe, and it's like, hell, why do people not hit the notification bell and just do everything that they're supposed to do? Just do everything that you're supposed to do, and you'll keep me happy, right? Let's see. Is that the tune? That is the tune. So we've got something at least to go out on. Oh, you're very kind, Frank. The check is in the post. The check's in the post, right? I read a good book in the hood. There's a phrase. There's a great quote. That's the first quote that's going on my book, Lance. Lance Ripper. I read a good book in the hood. There you go. Robert Burns, eat your heart out, right? Eat your heart out. Yeah, I know that tends to happen as well. Hey, to be honest, I mean, it doesn't matter what we do. YouTube are they're gonna do what they're gonna do, right? So it is what it is. And I'm very grateful to the people who do turn up and they do engage. Hopefully what you get is something a wee bit different and a bit kind of laid back, and you might get a laugh or two, right? So I mean, that's something at least, right? That's something at least. So yeah, good to see everyone. I'll see if I can share the screen. We'll play the tune, and it'll be cheerio, and I'll see you all again on Monday, right? And we'll get back into it. We'll just dive straight back into it, and then I think it'll be a McCann's, Jerry and Kate McCann. which is a stream that, yeah, probably anger's going to go through the roof. Trigger warning stream. That is a trigger warning stream, that one. So yeah, like I always say, no matter what, no matter where, do not comply. And that is about it. Bye-bye.